Okay, my guest on the show today is Sonalie Figueiras. Now, Sonalie is the founder and editor-in-chief of Green Queen. You are the Green Queen, I suppose.
I
And
suppose.
it's Hong Kong's largest eco-wellness media platform, advocating for social and environmental change using original, inspiring, Asia-centric content. And she's the founder and CEO of Eco Warehouse, the global sourcing platform for certified organic products created with a mission to make organic farming accessible and affordable for the whole planet. With over a decade of experience in publishing, SEO, digital marketing, organic trade, and health journalism, she is a eco-wellness industry veteran with a keen eye for market trends and a regular on the speaking circuit, sharing her expertise on stages across Asia and beyond. Sonalie also launched a podcast series, which is really good. I've been catching up on her shows. It's called the Zero Waste Movement, and it's here in Hong Kong to raise awareness about plastic pollution and the circular economy. We'll learn more about the circular economy today. And when she's not working, she is usually dreaming up new plant-based recipes in the kitchen for her family. So she's a fellow plant-based individual just like me. So we'll have lots to talk about today. I'll probably have to cut us off because we'll have so many things to chat about. So Sonalie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank
Appreciate
you for
it.
inviting me into this beautiful space.
Well,
it's very zen over here.
And you're a new mom. Congratulations on that.
You.
So you're taking some time away to join us. So appreciate that too. Thank you.
No problem. It's a pleasure.
So let's talk a little bit about Green Queen. When did you launch Green Queen and what are your goals? Or are your goals the same as when you launched it and what they are now?
No, they are not. That's a good question. Green Queen is a happy accident. So when I first started it, it was meant to be just a blog to share information and resources on how to live a healthier life in Hong Kong. And there was no plan to make it a media platform or to monetize it or anything like that. What happened is that a couple of years into it, I wasn't really doing much, but I realized that I had a loyal audience that was coming to the site every day. And basically, I had information that people were looking for. Mm-hmm. And that really inspired me because I felt that I wasn't the only one that was trying to live a more healthy, eco-friendly life. And I realized that there were a whole lot of other people out there in Hong Kong and in Asia that were, they wanted to know where to get organic food and how to, find non-toxic beauty products and more eco-friendly household goods. And so that inspired me to make it into more of a media platform rather than just a me blog where I was just sharing what I thought. Mm-hmm. I felt that there was a lot of scope to provide proper resources and start doing content, interviewing fellow eco warriors and, sharing healthy vegan recipes and having a guide with all the businesses in this space so that people could easily find what they needed.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have achieved that from what I can tell. And you're a really good writer too. I mean, it's a pleasure to go on and read your articles. You can see why. You don't really know that you have a voice until you just go for it, right? Like that's kind of what I experienced. You have all these ideas and you feel like you can be inspiring to people, but you don't know unless you just put yourself out there.
You don't. Absolutely. And for a long time, the mission was really, let's put out the best content. Mm-hmm. Inspiring stories, useful resources, articles that make you think, that make you want to act, that make you want to do your bit to make the world just that little bit better. Mm-hmm. And then as we've gone on, it's really cemented into this, what I call impact media mission. So I do think that we are Hong Kong and Asia to an extent, OG impact media. We were the first media company to we weren't just saying, hey, here's a restaurant review, or hey, here's a neighborhood guide, or hey, meet this person. We were saying, here's a neighborhood guide where you can support companies that are ethical mm-hmm. and that are environmentally friendly and that are trying to make Hong Kong better. Here's a recipe that is going to be, meat free so that you can eat less meat because meat is really damaging the planet. Right. Here's a story about someone that has taken it upon themselves to fight plastic pollution. So that's that's when media stops just being media and starts being what I'm calling impact media. So you're really trying to change minds through inspiring and empowering content.
Yeah.
And so that's the mission today. It's really about advocating for social change, for environmental change, for consumer behavior change. Trying to say to people, hey, if you do this a little differently, it's going to make a huge difference to the health of the planet and to your health. And for me, you know, our health and the planet's health are inextricably linked. I feel on other platforms, those are two very separate things, but to me, they go together.
Yeah, I think you do a really good job at being inspiring. There's a difference between laying out a whole bunch of facts and saying, this is why you should be plant-based, or this is why you should be an eco-warrior, and because this is bad and this is bad and this is bad, and you're bad if you don't do this. You don't get that sort of vibe at all from Green Queen. It's inspiring. It's saying, let's do this together. Here's a whole bunch of resources to help you if you're interested. It's not shame on you. And I think that's a really important, not just in the eco movement, but also in the plant-based movement. And I think, like with Rebecca's movie, Let Us Be Heroes, she does a good job with that too. I think that you can scare people away instead of fanning a flame. You just, you know, poo-poo somebody if they're not full vegan, or, you know, if they're wearing something leather but they're eating plant-based, and you're shutting somebody down for something that they're not maybe following through on, instead of, you know, fanning the flame. I think you guys do a really good job with that on Green Queen. It's inspiring, and it makes you almost sort of, I was telling you earlier, it's almost like a euphoric feeling, like you get excited, like, oh, let's do this together. Let's do what we can in our living space to start, and then maybe even expand beyond that.
Oh, well, I'm really glad that comes through, and thank you for saying that. That is very intentional. Green Queen is a place of positivity and of inclusivity, and we're not there to, honestly, we're not there to convert people. We're there to share inspiring content that empowers you to make changes. Those changes can be varied. You know, I always talk about this idea that everyone opens a different door on this journey. You know, like, for example, for you, it's very clear that the door started out as fitness, yes, which maybe then led you to health, which maybe then led you to diet, which then maybe led you to animal rights. Okay, but you didn't start off with animal rights. Somebody else might start off with animal rights and learn about a plant-based diet, and then they might get into how they feel and, you know, macros and health, and then maybe they end up going to the gym one day. And so, you know, everyone's journey is different. Somebody else might be really into beauty, and so they really want to clean up their beauty cabinet. So they start looking into products and ingredients, and that is when they realize that there's a huge relationship between, you know, the quality of a product and what goes inside it, and the ethics of a product. And so that's how they end up on this journey, right? And then they see the intrinsical link between, you know, a product that has a clean label and their own health, right? Those things go together. And so everyone comes at it through a different door. So we need to keep all those doors open, because our readers might come to us for fitness, but then they might end up, you know, looking into buying secondhand clothes, or our readers might come to us for diet, but then they realize that, you know, oh, mental health is a huge issue that they want to explore, you know. So that's the whole premise of our voice, is inclusive and positive, and also empowering. And what that's, to me, that, again, going back to impact media, that's the difference between just media and impact media. Media is, okay, here's 5 reasons why plant-based diets are good. But in Green Queen, it's, oh, here's how plant-based diets work in your daily life. And, oh, just make this small change and see how you feel. And, oh, you might feel great. And here's what other people are doing. And they're doing it in this really easy, casual manner. And, oh, look at these awesome products that are that are even better than the real thing. So you feel like, oh, I could replace the chicken in my dinner with something plant-based, because there's a really easy substitution, and it looks delicious and it looks fun. Oh, great. Okay. This makes it easy. Oh, and I can get it really nearby my office. Okay. Why not? Yeah. Because one of the things I truly believe is that people do actually want to change the world. They do want to be healthier, but it has to be easy, and it has to be convenient. And some people might say to me, well, no, you know, people should want to change the world no matter how hard it is. I don't think so. because everyone's dealing with their own daily stuff every day, jobs, family, stress, and they don't have time to change the world, so to speak, as their main job. That's what my job is, to tell them or show them how they can do these small things that do change the world and improve their lives.
So there's different levels of the eco warrior. It sounds like there's like the.
Sure. I mean, the term eco warrior originally is a term that is applied to people who, really leaders in their field. But to me, everyone can be an eco warrior. You follow Green Monday, you're an eco warrior. Mm-hmm. You buy secondhand clothes, you're an eco warrior. You volunteer to pick up plastic off the beach, you're an eco warrior. To me, I don't want to obviously there are people who make this their life's mission and their job. So obviously that's amazing. Those people are very inspirational, and they open the doors for us.
Right. And
they show us, they lead the way, and they see into the future. But everyone has the capacity to make small changes.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And we'll talk more about the dimensions of wellness later too. But another thing I think you all do really well on Green Queen is you touch on all the different 7 dimensions of wellness, because it's a very holistic thing. Wellness is. It's not just your balance between your job and your life. The life piece is inclusive of quite a few different dimensions. And so, we talked about this earlier. It's not something that you necessarily were, plugging into with the different dimensions, but it just happened naturally because yes, there is sort of that crossover between nutrition and fitness and the beauty products. I mean, shoot, 50% of what you put on your skin ends up in your bloodstream. So I always say, if you wouldn't eat it, don't put it on your skin.
Then the other 50% ends up in our waterways.
Yeah, good point.
So again, you're connected. Your skin and the ocean is connected.
And that comes back into us. So yeah, it's very circular. Yeah, that's good. So, if you look at the original wellness model, it had 6 dimensions. So it was, let's see if we can do it off the top of my head here: physical, social, emotional, intellectual, the occupational, and I almost had, that was 5 out of 6, spiritual. So that's your 6. And in the newer models that are coming out, environmental is starting to be included, which I think you would agree is a good thing. And like I said earlier, I've been inspired by you, by Rebecca with Let Us Be Heroes, our friend Christina, who is also on the panel for the Vibe Tribe. And it's a really cool feeling to start to get involved in this sort of eco warrior movement. So one of the things I'm looking at with Boost is trying to look at what we make for apparel and can we do that more eco-friendly. Our kids just came home with new uniforms, their PE uniforms. They're made out of recycled plastic bottles. Like it's starting to happen. I mean, you can sort of feel this.
Is that from Tsunami Sport?
I can't remember if it's from Tsunami or not, but yeah, I know you introduced me to Andrew. That sounds like a really cool company.
He's been fighting that battle for a long time. Andrew
it sounds like he's one of the leaders.
He's a pioneer. He's an eco warrior right there.
Yeah.
He's somebody who saw a problem and effected change right there in his job. And that's very powerful because he supplies a huge amount of children and professional athletes. So, and
there is the obvious thing about how cool it is where they're coming home when they're really nicely made. These pieces are great. But how important is it that kids are understanding that they're wearing something recycled? Like, I think starting at a young age and having that appreciation for, that upcycling and recycling process in the clothing industry. And we'll talk about the clothing industry in a little bit. I really loved your podcast that you did recently on that topic. But I think it's great that, and even at school, is starting our little, at home process of trying to do a little bit better with plastic. My son's teacher said, "Hey, Cam, why don't you reuse that Ziploc bag that you had your sandwich packed in?" He's like, "Oh yeah, cool." So we would bring it home and clean it out or whatever, and we'd use it for like a week. And then our next step is, let's just not even use plastic bags anymore. Now let's use, sort of just a plastic container that we can wash and just keep reusing. So just those little things, but it's really cool how you sort of get inspired and motivated to do the little things at home like you guys talk about. It's pretty fun.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that environmental has become one of the 7 pillars of the wellness balance model. I think environmental concerns have also now become a much bigger deal in schools and in curricula. So what I find when I talk to our readers and people around town is that it's their kids that are actually pushing them to do better.
Yeah.
So a lot of the change is starting from the children. So I'm not worried about the children. Now, in terms of at what age do you fully understand what the circular economy is? Do you need to understand it when you're 5? No. But do you need to know that turtles get damaged by plastic bags? You're perfectly capable of understanding that at 5, and it's very visual to you. And usually children are naturally compassionate towards animals. So we lose that as we get older, which is the problem with where we're at. But children naturally want to protect animals and cherish them and take care of them. So definitely not worried about the children.
Yeah.
But to go back to the environmental element into the wellness balance model, I actually didn't know about that balance model till you brought it up. So very interesting to learn more about it. I actually think that the fact that it was missing from the original 6 tells you that we were a little bit broken as a world, as a society, and that we had completely disconnected from nature. Because for me, I don't see how you can be truly well if you don't have the natural world wellness part, environmental health part as well. As I've been mentioning, as we've been talking, they're all linked.
Yes.
And, here, this is where you want to go into, in Ayurveda and in yoga, in pursuit of yoga, you have to go to nature to look for your peace, right?
Right.
The Japanese have this wonderful word, Shinrin Yoku, which is, forest bathing.
Yes.
Now, they may not have known it at the time, but we now know that being in a forest lowers your blood pressure.
Yes.
We now know that, humans thrive in cities that have a biophilic design. That means they're designed around the concepts of nature and the environment. We now know that just looking at nature on a screen actually relaxes us. So we need nature. Therefore, we must protect nature and cherish it. I don't know that you can really be well and be in balance if you are not in balance with nature.
I have to agree. One of the things you talk about is, making small steps and sort of being an N=1 experiment, which I always talk about too, and just trying things out, being open-minded to new ideas. Try this. Go, if you have access to grass or mountain or a beach, go stand barefoot on our planet for 5 minutes and meditate or, do some gratitude journaling or something like that. And just do that for a week and tell me you don't feel better.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
I feel the same way. I mean, it's been a little bit rough lately because I have a newborn, and to be honest, anyway, he couldn't go outside for a little bit. So normally though, before I gave birth, I was on the trails that's how I get my...
The trails here are awesome.
Right. Yeah. And that's how I get my moment. Like, I have to go every week. And, the fact that I haven't been able to go for a few weeks has actually been a real issue because I've been missing the trees. For me, trees are therapy. Yes. Absolutely. You go there, even if it's polluted, even if it's not perfect, just being around the trees for even 20 minutes, hopefully a couple of hours, just completely changes, your outlook.
Yeah. And so in that wellness dimension, you might say, well, what does that mean to be balanced with your environmental wellness? It's an appreciation as much as it is anything else. Just acknowledging your surroundings. Like, there's people that have lived in Hong Kong their whole life that have never gone on these trails.
It's unbelievable.
Yes. And that's like the national sport here is trail running and hiking. So
I thought it was shopping.
Well, yeah, probably is. Yeah.
That's what we need to stop anyway.
At least they're walking around a little bit when they do that. But yeah, you're, half a mile away from some sensational trails. And so just that awareness, that initial awareness of your surroundings and then appreciating it is really what the environmental dimension of wellness is about. If you appreciate it, then you're not going to be toxic to it, right?
Absolutely. And it connects you to animals. It connects you to plants. it's the door that gets you to understand that we need to protect the planet. And if you want to protect your planet and keep admiring its beauty and cherishing its wonder, you're going to have to eventually connect the dots to how you live your life every day.
Speaking of nature, have you seen the porcupines here in Hong Kong?
Yes, I have.
Do you know how big they are? I had
Incredible.
I've seen a million pictures of my.
They could eat my dog.
Yeah, they're like. So I was going up a bike ride up the peak this morning, and one of these little guys, they're so cute too. They just kind of waddle along.
I think they're cute. I mean, you should see how people get scared though when we see them.
Yeah, I suppose they could make you have a little bit of pain if you got shot by the quill, but they are cute little guys. But yeah, just, if you're not getting out there, my point is I've seen a lot of pictures that my buddies have taken while they're out cycling or running or whatever of them, but I had never seen one here in Hong Kong in person. And so you're not going to experience that unless you go out in the 3-dimensional world, get in nature and experience it. So I think that's a good point.
Absolutely. There is enough nature here to be at Zen. To be Zen, you just have to go look for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as a parent, you have to push your children to do that. Hopefully make it a family activity,
Yeah, and they're naturally curious.
It doesn't have to be with an athletic goal. It can just be with a discovery goal or just a fresh air goal or just a family outing goal,
Yes.
Everyone's different. You don't have to do trail running if you're not a super extreme athlete. You could just be walking.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Walking
still, one of the best things, even if you're injured, if you can walk, that's actually one of the best ways you can recover too, is just moving. We're learning more and more now. It's not necessarily as much about throwing your leg up and putting some ice on it. It's actually more about just keeping your body moving. We're going to heal much faster.
Is that what functional movement?
It's part of it, yeah.
That's become very popular in the last couple of years.
Part of the theory with functional movement too is just, we're athletes. We're all human athletes. And so what is going to make us the most functional as a human athlete, especially since we're sitting a lot at our desks? Even if you're at a sit-stand station, you're still sedentary. So functional movement is about making us ready for operating in a 3-dimensional world. We all have to squat every day. We all have to pick things up every day. So functional movement is basically doing things in your fitness regime that will apply to real life. So standing in front of the mirror still doing bicep curls, not so functional. But a deep squat with an overhead press, now that's a functional movement that applies to life. That's what kind of means. Yeah. And then if you're not able to do that, then prehab and rehab training to get your body to the point where it is mobile enough to do those functions.
So basically making your everyday comfortable and so that you can get through the day without aches and pains and difficulties.
And even maybe
seems very sensible.
Increase performance too, like more productivity and everything if you're more functional.
Absolutely, because obviously if you have pain and aches, you lose time.
Definitely. All right. Well, we talked about this on the show a few times, and you know this, Sonalie, since you're the Green Queen. The number one thing you can do to reduce your carbon footprint is to eat a plant-based diet. Mm-hmm. You can actually reduce your carbon footprint by 73%. There's nothing else you can do that's going to reduce it by that much. So start there. But what are a few other things that folks can do to reduce their carbon footprint starting right away? Are there some things that they
buy less stuff?
Buy less stuff.
I mean,
that seems so obvious, but people don't think about that.
Buy less stuff. Stop buying stuff. You've got everything you need most of the time.
Yes.
So definitely, if we want to if we want fast fashion and fast consumer products to decrease, we need to stop buying it and asking for it. Also, most of the stuff we buy, we just waste. Yes. So if you really are a compulsive shopper, switch from buying in the linear economy to buying in the circular economy. Buy secondhand, buy reused, buy pre-loved. There is more than enough to go around. And especially in Hong Kong, it's amazing how much you can get if you're a new mom, or new parents, or if you're looking for a car, or if you need clothes. There's so much that's secondhand and in great quality. You do not need to buy new. So just say no to the malls and stop buying. I also truly believe that buying things is absolutely not the way to inner happiness and peace.
That's
So
true.
I think that if you buy less, you actually improve your mental health.
Interesting. So
We have too much stuff, and we buy too much, and it's this empty pursuit where, you know, the wonder at buying something new lasts like 5 minutes, and then boom, the utility has just sunk into the ground. So it's a waste. And you end up with all this stuff that you don't need, and it doesn't make you happy. And, you know, there's this huge trend going on right now, minimalism in our home spaces, in our office. Everyone's trying to like declutter, right? Japanese lady, Marie Kondo with her KonMari, all of that. And what is that? That is recognizing that stuff has a sort of a physical weight, but also a mental weight.
Interesting.
Right? So
your brain is like, sorry to interrupt you. So your brain is
heavy
like,
with all this stuff.
yeah, it's like storing a spot for it. It's like, okay, I have this now. I need to compartmentalize this here. If that's not there, then it's just like,
why are spas such clean spaces?
yeah.
Why are meditation centers bare?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, what do all the great spiritual traditions of the world say? They say go in, you know, less stuff, be ascetic. Have, you know, you don't, things are not important. But it's also linked to the fact that if you want to reach a more inner calm within yourself, you do, you know, all this stuff, all this clutter makes it hard for you to focus.
So start with just being aware of whether or not you're sort of a serial shopper, and maybe scale that back a little bit.
Just say, I'm not going to buy anything for a month.
For a month.
See what
Okay.
happens. I mean, except for food.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I've seen sort of extreme cases like Lisa, who is on the show, owner of Confusion plant-based restaurant. She's down to, I think, 25 articles of clothing, which to my wife would sound like a crazy thing, but I'm sure Lisa sort of worked her way to get to that. And then I think I've seen somebody else that did like a 1-year challenge.
Tanya.
Yeah.
We profiled her.
Yeah. That's where I saw that. Okay. So 1 year, no new clothes, right?
A lot of people doing that.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Doesn't mean you can't look great.
Right.
And take pride in your fashion sense. It's just you are not putting anything new into the economy. You're going into what we call the circular economy, where you're constantly keeping things in use. But that's one part of it. The other part of it to me is the mental aspect, that you are going to feel lighter. You know, I mean, there are studies that show that in clean spaces, people work better.
Yes.
They have higher outputs in their jobs. So, I mean, that shows you that we all are, you know, weighed down by our stuff, mentally as well as physically. So I've never heard of anyone who sort of decluttered their life and gone minimalist and been unhappy as a result.
I should have never done that.
You know,
nobody says that.
It's like
right?
that funny adage, I regret going to the gym, says no one ever, right?
Yeah,
it's the same
exactly.
thing. I regret going minimalist, says no one ever. You know, it's a positive thing. Okay. And it's a really easy rule. You know, buy less stuff.
Okay. So buy less stuff, go plant-based. Anything else easy that you can think of for people to start with?
Well, obviously, if you're talking on the fashion, we are in a very fashion-centric city, try to choose secondhand. I mean, that is part of the buy less stuff, but we can separate it out. Get out on the trails. Like, go once a week for a hike. Again, I go back to that is going to connect you to nature, which is going to connect you to your health and the planet's health, right? Because until you make those connections, you're not going to be motivated to do whatever it is you need to do to, you know, stay on a plant-based diet or consume less, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and you know,
go do a beach cleanup.
Yeah, that's
an easy one. Just do one beach cleanup. There is no chance that you will do a beach cleanup and not come out of that going, I need to stop with the plastic.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, gosh, and how bad was it after our tsunami?
The
typhoon? Excuse me. Yeah, that was Stanley, because we're so exposed down here on the south side. It was just upside down. I mean, it was
really
car tires and trailers and plastics galore. I mean, it was, to your point.
Well, that's still there.
Yeah.
It might be moved around or cleaned up, but now, most people who are in the, the anti-plastic brigade in Hong Kong, they'll tell you that the plastic is actually deep in the sand. So we're just like collecting the flotsam that's coming from the water. But what about the stuff that's in the beaches?
Wow.
Yeah.
So an easy thing there, it sounds so obvious, but I see people drinking out of plastic water bottles every day. So just get your own
reusable
water bottle and carry it around with you everywhere you go.
I have this great example of my, of my husband, because not everybody wants to be the voice of a movement. Okay.
It's not easy.
Well, it's not just that it's not easy. It's that not everybody is inclined. Other people are doing other things.
Sure.
My husband is not looking to be the voice of the plastic-free movement. However, thanks to obviously being married to me, he got himself a reusable coffee cup from Starbucks. And people at work started asking him, what's this cup? I'm bringing my own cup. We get a cup of coffee every day at Starbucks. So why would I waste the single-use cup?
Yeah.
I think it was his boss or his colleague said, oh, that sounds smart. Okay, well, I'm going to get a cup.
Yeah.
And I think the boss said to the whole team, okay, everybody has to get a cup or I'm not buying you coffee.
Nice.
So before you know it, just bringing a reusable cup to work has converted X number of people.
That's really cool.
Who then have done the same thing for their circle. So again, this is not somebody being an activist. This is someone bringing a reusable cup to work.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's not,
in the same way that your son brought back said that his teacher said stop using the Ziploc.
Yeah.
And then eventually you're going to go into reusable Ziplocs, and then you're going to never have Ziploc bags again. Then how many you're going to save?
Yes, absolutely.
Hundreds
just
a year.
Our family. Yeah, just our family doing our own little thing. That's really cool. And yeah, to your point, it's not like marching down the street, hitting people
with a giant poster and,
yeah.
and a loudspeaker. You don't have to be that person at all. You can be quiet and just bring a reusable cup to work.
A quiet, powerful eco warrior. I like it. Yeah. That's good.
Everyone's an eco warrior in their way.
I want to talk a little bit about your show. I listened to it's called The Zero Waste Journey. It's on iTunes. Check it out. Google, all the platforms. This one you did, it was called Fashion Waste in the Circular Economy. I admit I didn't really know what the circular economy was. Once I started listening, it made a lot of sense. I was taking all kinds of notes throughout the show, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but some of the things that I thought were really interesting. So this is here in Hong Kong. Sorry. Globally, 3/4 of our clothing ends up in landfills. Mm-hmm. Okay. Crazy. Here in Hong Kong, 150 tons of clothing is incinerated or put in a landfill daily. 150 tons. That's a lot. And so Edwin, he's with Hong Kong Rita. He's doing all kinds of really cool stuff with his projects and in his lab, if you will. And so one of them was they're taking recycled clothes, they're breaking them down and getting all the different fibers. So I guess the hard thing is if it's a piece of clothing that's like cotton and polyester, they actually have to separate those. They separate it out and just make really cool yarn that people can use. That's pretty sweet.
So they along with the H&M Foundation and the Novotex, is Hong Kong and Asia's probably biggest yarn company. So all three of and then Hong Kong Rita is supported by the Hong Kong government. So it's the Hong Kong Research Institute of Textiles
and
Apparel.
Yeah.
So their job is to kind of advance the cause of innovate with textiles.
That's great.
And that's what Edwin's their leader and spokesperson. And then you've got the H&M Foundation, who has made it their mission now to really address the problems of the fast fashion supply chain.
This is H&M, the big.
Yes, H&M, the big. So if you listen to the podcast, Hannah Holland was there. She's the head of sustainability for H&M in Hong Kong and Greater China. She's super fantastic lady. I mean, that was a really all-star panel, as to be honest, they all are. That one of the reasons, I think you asked me, why did I do this podcast? It's just another thing I have to do. And I have a lot on my plate. So why? And it's because when I realized that the zero waste concept and topic had become so attractive and popular, I realized, everyone and their uncle was saying, okay, here, you need to use a metal straw instead of a plastic straw. And that's great. That's a really important part of the conversation too. But I realized that there wasn't enough of going deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So the podcast to me serves to have a conversation with 3 experts who are really leading in their fields on the topic. And I try to get different points of view, and we go deep. We're not just saying, hey, use a metal straw.
Right. Yeah.
We're explaining, what is, the first episode was, what is this plastic problem? Why do we have a plastic problem in the oceans? The second episode was, how does this recycling in Hong Kong work? So that was really interesting because we had an NGO fellow. We had a social enterprise that recycles, right? And then we had a government representative. Well, a district councilor. So he's elected for his district. And, it's amazing how deep you can go with people who really are experts.
Yeah.
So that's the point of the podcast. It's to really go, well, one, I love audio, and I was inspired by my co-host, Regina Larco, who does the #Impact podcast. She's the one who really made me believe that, Hong Kong could have podcasts and people were interested. Because I'd been listening to podcasts before from the US and from the UK, but I didn't know that there'd be an audience here. But when she inspired me, I thought, okay, let's go deeper. And instead of doing this like zero waste digging with words, let's try audio.
Yeah.
And it works really well. And it's a really, there's an organic feel to the dialogue. Obviously there's some preparation, but we also allow the conversation to go where it will go.
Right.
So a lot of great stuff has come out of that. And then episode 4 was about food waste.
Yeah.
That was really interesting as well. And then finally, episode 5, we were doing fashion waste, textile waste. And really what one of the main topics during that episode was about Hong Kong's first recycled yarn mill, which has just opened. And that's what they were all talking about.
That's so cool.
And it's really interesting to have, again, we had 3 different stakeholders. We had Edwin, who's from the innovation side with there's some government backing behind what he does. Hong Kong Rita is sort of somewhat sponsored by the government. And then you've got Hannah, who's working for, the biggest fast fashion company in the world. And then you had Sarah Garner, who's a founder of Retycle. So she is an example of an entrepreneur who is, innovating in the way she's doing business. So she runs this platform where you can resell your luxury kids' clothing. So instead of wasting it, right? And there's a whole story on how she does a really great job. And I think she's created a huge market for herself. But again, those are 3 different ways to solve the problem, right?
Yes.
And that's what's really important to me for each episode, is to show that you need different stakeholders to solve a problem.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And I appreciated the content that each one of those guests provided. And I learned a ton. And I think it was an hour, maybe just a little bit more. But to your point, like this audio long form that's sort of popular right now, it gives, maybe your reader won't read more than 800 words necessarily, but they'll go listen to long form because they can listen to the show while they're doing the dishes or walking the dog or whatever.
Absolutely.
So I think it's great that you have that as an additional option for people to go deeper.
Right, to go deeper. And right now I'm doing the series on zero waste, but I think I will explore other topics. It lends very well to profiling interesting people. Audio does. But it's super important for every episode to really see how different people are tackling a problem and to show the collaborative nature of our global fight against climate change and environmental destruction and all of it. We can't do it alone.
No.
We need governments, we need private industry, we need NGOs.
And we just need people to be inspired. Really just genuinely be inspired.
Exactly, which is why for the food waste article, I had the food writer Janice Lang Hayes, who is really passionate about food waste. And she's, if you look up food waste in Hong Kong, she's written so many of the articles and she's brought it to people's attention because at the end of the day, it's great if people are doing stuff in their labs or in their charity offices, but we, the public, need to know about it.
Yes.
So she fulfills an important role, you know?
Yeah.
Along with, we had Daisy from Hong Kong Baptist University, who's basically Hong Kong's foremost food waste expert. She's just got awarded a Fulbright scholarship and was just in Massachusetts for a year doing research on a food waste platform solution.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, go listen to all of the episodes. A couple of things that I took away from the fashion waste one was, obviously we are putting way too many clothes into landfills. And, you know, the solution with recycle is great because how much of that is kids' clothes, because they're growing so dang fast. Yeah, they don't last long. They tear through them, whatever.
It makes me crazy, all the kid stuff.
Yeah. One of the other things that Edwin at Hong Kong Rita was working on that I thought was just amazing. Remember how he was talking about how they're creating this polyester out of food waste? Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
That's
so food waste is a huge problem. It's like tackling two birds with one stone. We're handling this issue with food waste and making new clothes from recycled
Hence the
material.
importance of having multiple stakeholders in the discussion and the collaboration opportunities, because it's all linked.
So this is polyester that's not plastic based. This is polyester from, I think he was saying that they actually, you know, break it down and it's amino acids and sugars, and they feed it and grow it, and it's totally plastic free, which is really cool too. It's nice to recycle plastic into new clothes, but it's also nice to make
I don't know if you saw, but we just did a profile on this wonderful Indian startup called Malai, and they're making coconut leather.
Oh,
so
yes,
vegan leather made from the waste of producing coconuts.
Yeah, so like those shoes. Waste. Those shoes are really cool looking.
Yeah. So, and then you've got the wonderful Spanish lady who created Piñatex, where she makes pineapple leather from pineapple waste from the pineapple leaves.
That's incredible.
Yeah, in the Philippines. So, you know, there are other solutions out there.
Yeah, and
it's usually in nature.
We're actually at a spot now where it's not, you know, ho hum. This is cool stuff. Like, it's a cool
look
time.
At Adidas.
Yes.
By 2024, they said that all their shoes and apparel are going to be made out of recycled materials.
Wow. That's. I mean,
how many? They've shown 1 million pairs of those shoes with the made from the plastic bottles.
Oh yes, that's right. The whole upper is plastic.
Yeah.
They're putting it on their Boost platform.
So I mean, there's stuff going on. There are solutions. We have to buy into them. I mean, this week was an exceptionally exciting week. I don't know if you saw my editor's letter in our newsletter yesterday, but basically, so obviously Davos has been going on, the World Economic Forum in Davos, and a huge announcement was made that about the zero waste movement. So this company, this sort of social enterprise called the Loop. Well, actually, their original company is called TerraCycle, but they created this Loop platform. I don't know if you saw this. Mm-hmm. So they joined up with major food companies like Unilever, Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, Nestle, all the big food, all the FMCG companies, right? And they convinced them to get involved in this circular packaging economy. So now, instead of getting your Häagen-Dazs in a single-use carton, you're going to get it in a metal container. And the Loop is going to deliver it. You're going to order it online. The Loop's going to deliver it. And then they're going to pick up the packaging and put it back into reuse. And they're doing this for laundry detergent, for snacks, for granola, for oatmeal, like all your favorite brands.
Wow.
Are involved.
That's really cool.
So they're testing it out in the New York area and in the Paris area in France, because I believe part of the team is French. And this is going to revolutionize the world.
That is really cool.
I mean, and what does it show? Why is it such a big deal? Because, one, it shows that there is a huge acknowledgement from the big brands that recycling doesn't work. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work, right? Only 9% of plastics worldwide are recycled.
9? Yes. I had no idea. Right. Wow.
So recycling is not the answer. So this is an acknowledgement that we will not conquer this problem with recycling. This is huge. This is a structural change in how we approach the problem of plastics.
Recycling
because everyone's been saying recycling is
for 25 years,
answer,
right?
But it's not working.
Right.
2, it is a huge acknowledgement of people like my readers who have been demanding for other solutions, who've been shopping in bulk. You know, a lot of the FMCG companies are losing their customers to stores like a Live Zero or Edgar or what have you, or, you know, stores where you can buy plastic free, container free.
Right.
All the consumers that have been advocating for that and putting their dollars elsewhere have caused all these FMCG companies to think we need a different solution. Or we're going to lose all our customers.
Yeah, it's 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, it was sort of more of a corporate social responsibility to, you know, make themselves look good. Maybe they had a good intent, good PR. It's not about that anymore. It is, if you're
thanks
not,
to social media, you will be called out immediately.
Yes. You're really shooting yourself in the foot if you're not doing some of these things to make your company more green. I mean, you really will just shoot yourself in the foot. You're going to be toast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is huge. This and this shows the power of the most important thing you can do, which is vote with your dollar.
Vote with your dollar, yeah.
Whether it's not using that dollar at all, so not buying stuff, or whether it's using that dollar to support brands, products, companies that have their ethics in check, whether it's from an environmental point of view, from a human point of view, right? You should also care. It's not enough to care about the environment. You also have to care about the workers that are making your products, you know, and you have to care about your health. Like the product has to also be good for your health.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, it's
huge news.
It's an exciting time.
It's an exciting time.
It is a really exciting time.
There are solutions.
I mean, maybe it's just because I'm, you know, really excited and studying this a lot right now, but I feel excited to continue to do more, you know, as a family unit. And I mean, is it normal to feel like this like energy and excitement when you're...
I think so. I think that you mentioned the word euphoria. I think there is a euphoria. It to me, it's like everything lines up because you're, in a way, you're at one with your destiny to be a human that is engaging with the world around you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's part of the balance. It's just a different way of saying it.
Yeah, I'm glad that we talked about how it's a environmental is literally a wellness dimension. In order for you to have your energy in each of your dimensions in check, and you might be really strong in physical and you might be really weak in environmental, that means you need to put more energy to that to become more balanced. If you think of the wellness as a wheel and each one of these dimensions is a spoke, you may not necessarily need to put as much energy in some of the other spokes. But if you're not putting any energy into that, then you're definitely going to be out of balance.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's where the energy is coming from for me is that, you know, I'm putting more energy where it needed to be. All right. So, before we leave the clothing, couple other things that came out of that show. So we talked about H&M. I didn't know like every single H&M store has like a collection bin where you can take. That's really, really great. And then
Zara has them too.
Zara does too. Okay. And so by 2030, they're saying that every piece of clothing will be from recycled or sustainable source. I know sustainable isn't as great as recycled, but they're really, for a brand that big, if you think about how much product they put out, 2030, that's a pretty aggressive goal.
It's an aggressive goal. And Hannah spoke very, very inspiringly on their behalf in the show. You know, a lot of people did contact me. I mean, there's always going to be skeptics, right? At the end of the day, the best thing, yes, in a way, would be not to buy.
Yes.
However, the mind shift that needs to happen across the world for no one to buy new clothes is probably a bit daunting at the moment. So yes. We do need other solutions, on the way solutions, let's call them.
Well, I think it's good that there's sort of high fashion recycled brands or companies, I guess you should say, like they focus on getting, you know, like the bigger name brands and bringing them back in after, you know, somebody's used the product. So they're sort of gently used, really
vintage, pre-loved, all that.
Yeah. I think that'll help a lot.
Well, also the rebranding of it. You know, I think a few years ago in Asia, the idea of wearing secondhand clothes was sort of the idea of, felt like it was for people maybe who didn't have any money.
Right.
So something that you wouldn't do. Like the whole point of having money is you can have new. So divorcing that concept that, you know, the best is new.
Yeah, it's about,
or that it's to covet newness and lots of stuff. There's a mind shift happening there.
Yeah, I think maybe not the right term, but it almost seems like a cool factor, but it doesn't seem like a cool factor that's going to wear off. It seems like there's this huge growing awareness now. It's almost like people that said plant-based is just sort of a trend. No, it's a big train that's getting faster.
It is
faster.
a trend,
yeah,
but it is not only a trend.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And also it's a trend that we need.
Yes.
So if that's its worst quality, let's call it a trend.
Yeah.
You know, but millennials and Generation Z have changed the status symbols.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same thing. It's not a big house and, 5 cars and like as many clothes as you can afford and, convenience food. Millennials and Gen Z, they demand, their status symbols are different.
Right.
You have to be conscious. You have to be eco-friendly. You have to be plant-based. You have to really consider that you have to be ethically minded. You have to support brands that have social missions.
So what is that coming from? You probably have a good theory on that. Is it from our education system and they came up in that and they had more education about eco-friendly? Was it information that's available now to us more readily with, in the palm of our hand, we can see everything that we need? Why isn't that permeating into our older generations though?
I think it is permeating, but why the young? Well, I think it was the convergence or the confluence, I should say, of the fact that the 80s and the 90s and the generations that came before millennials really kind of raped the planet.
Yeah.
And then that coupled with the arrival of social media and the internet and dissemination of information at warp speed 24 hours a day has created this opportunity for an awareness shift.
Yes. Okay.
Well, these factories are destroying the planet. Climate change is real. In order to eat cheese, a cow has to be impregnated 12 months of the year, and her baby calf has to be stolen away from her. I don't think that people knew that 15 years ago. I don't think there wasn't a platform like Facebook or Instagram where you could see the videos of said cows or of the chickens cooped up, or this has only really become mass knowledge in the last 5-10 years.
Yeah.
So definitely it's those two things. I always joke that vegetarians are persona non grata. So I always find it so funny because in the 70s being vegetarian, I mean, that was the vegan, right? This vegan term wasn't such a big, it was like, you're vegetarian, you're the hippie, right?
Yes.
And now if you're a vegetarian, it's sort of like, well, why would you be a vegetarian? If you care about animals, you go all the way.
Right, yes.
And sometimes I feel like vegans give more of a hard time to vegetarians than to the meat eater who eats vegetarian once a day. It's like, clap, clap, clap. You're amazing. That's great. You know? But vegetarians are like, oh, pick a side, man. Pick a side.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's so funny. It's a dirty word, even in search, nobody wants to search vegetarian. It's all about vegan or plant-based.
Interesting. So vegetarian's not even coming up anymore.
Yeah. But obviously it used to be that why was a vegetarian eating eggs and cheese? Because I don't think there was such an understanding of what industrial dairy and industrial egg production was involved.
Oh, yeah.
I also truly believe that 40, 50 years ago, it wasn't this bad. We weren't mincing male chicks, when in order to produce our eggs.
Right. Yeah. Because we just weren't trying to feed as many people either, and we didn't have the technology.
Demand wasn't there.
Yeah.
But obviously the world has changed, and now eating dairy and eating eggs is a very different choice than it was 40 years ago, or even 20 years ago. But if you have to see Visuals are super important to get people to change their minds. So I think the fact that millennials and Gen Z generations have such access to, their life is very visual. Everything's on the screen. It's very digital. Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, the internet has made them, the power of a visual versus reading 1,000 words.
It's true. And
you'll change faster.
I always say too that, you're never going to change somebody's beliefs. Even if you're give the best speech in the whole world, you might inspire somebody, but they're not going to change their beliefs unless they have a different experience. And so whatever you can do to push somebody just that little bit further to have that experience. Yeah.
And the visuals of Instagram and Facebook make that very, you watch one video. I remember my mom seeing the video of the diver in Bali with all the plastic that went around in 2017 or 2018. And that was it.
Yes.
She saw one video and she goes, okay, I get it now. This is a disaster. We have to stop. I'm going to stop using plastic.
That's awesome.
I could have said how many ever speeches, but one video.
Yeah.
And it's the same. When I saw what was really happening to cows, I didn't understand about the cheese before,
Yes.
And that's another thing. It's important to be kind to people and to understand that everyone's on a different part of their journey,
Yes.
And there's no better than anyone else, and no shaming and no name calling, people have to get there how they get there, and they have to open their doors as and when is right for them. My
friend Christy, who, she's good friends with us, and I went plant-based 5 years ago, and her and her husband gave it a little go, and it didn't really sit right with him at that time. And so, we go on family vacations together and all that kind of stuff. So they're around my plant-basedness all the time. But she watched Let Us Be Heroes, and she's like, okay, that's it. I'm switching. I was like, man, I'm not as inspiring as Let Us Be Heroes. So to your point, it's a great documentary. But no, because you planted the seeds. Yes. Right. But just making a point that visual documentaries have a huge power of inciting change. But for people to see the documentaries, somebody needs to point to them. So there's also that. So, that again, going back to, there's many stakeholders. I'll take some credit after all then. You definitely should. Are your wife and children vegan too? No, but pretty close. My wife is pretty close. She eats mostly vegan just because she eats a lot of what you eat, what I eat. Yeah. And so, if she's going out to a work dinner, she'll have, meat or dairy on occasion, but not very much. So when you try to do it as a family unit, I should say this. If somebody in the family is trying to do it without any support, I think that would be really hard. It would have been one thing if she would have said, okay, we're both doing it together. We're both going plant-based. She didn't do that necessarily, but she couldn't have been more supportive. Every time we go to a restaurant, even today, she's looking at the menu for me to make sure that there's something on there for me. So, you can have that support even if somebody's not necessarily on the exact same plan. Agreed. That's wonderful. All right. Do your kids ask you questions about? Oh, they do. They're like, now, Dad, we made some cookies at school, but you cannot have any because it has dairy in it. So they're really aware. And my daughter, sometimes she'll be like, I'm going to eat like Daddy tonight. I'm going to have some green peas and some corn and apples. I'm going to be a vegan just like Daddy. So I never shame them or push them in any direction. I just try to be a good example. And if I have a hot dog and their stomach hurts, I don't say, whoa, see, I told you. I just be like, just think about that, how you feel. If that's something that's not making you feel good, maybe just think about it next time. So I don't know. Parenting is its own, 2-hour show. But I think if you just set a good example and encourage them to eat healthy foods without shaming, that's pretty much a win. My son is so picky though. I will be excited for him as his taste buds change and he starts to try more foods, because it's pretty tough for him right now. Oh yeah. But that is actually now proven that some kids really do have they're tasting things differently. Oh, is that right? Yeah. It's not just because they're picky eater. He's really there are actually phases. You do actually, as you grow up, develop a stronger taste for
stronger appreciation for broccoli or spinach or bitter food. Bitter foods are often difficult for children when they're younger. I mean, it's not all just somebody being difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a chip off the old block. I mean, I was just like that when I was a little kid. If you ask my mom, I was a terror. I had like 5 foods that I would eat. And I think he's just like me. And if he is, then he'll have this sort of expansion or new horizon of foods at about college or so.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I started eating a lot more different foods in college. I want to talk a little bit about sort of the eco warrior movement and, recycled fashion. And I don't feel like men are marketed to as much with that, just like with the whole eco movement in general. Now I have a few examples. Patagonia, everybody knows Patagonia. They're a really cool sort of outdoor brand. They're since day one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Adidas, as we talked about,
a higher standard.
They do. BAM, Sun-Dried, G-Star, just a few examples. And, I think they probably do some of the best jobs of marketing to both sides. But I don't know, do companies think that males aren't really going to respond to that type of marketing and advertising, or is it just me in my head? What do you think, Sonalie?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you brought this up because I hadn't thought about it. So that was me being a little bit gender myopic.
No.
But if I kind of take a step back and I put on my kind of consumer behavior hat, it has to do with the buying dollars and who is responsible for most of the buying choices we make. So that would be women. A lot of kind of eco marketing has to do with, household products, food, beauty products, kids' clothes, fashion. And it turns out that women disproportionately in their households make the decisions on most of those things.
So maybe I'm a little bit of an anomaly.
You would be, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's
probably why you're feeling that. I think that's also starting to change. I also think that, again, going back to generational change, Gen Z and millennials, in their households, there is now going to be a difference. My husband definitely buys a lot more of the groceries and the household stuff. I mean, he buys all our baby stuff, for example. I mean, it's not, I buy a small portion of it because I have a friend who has a business, but otherwise it's him. And I would think that his father probably wasn't making those, buying those things.
That's a good
Would have
point.
been exclusively his mother. So just in one generation, that's already changed. So I think that you're right. Companies, if they're listening, need to start advertising towards men more. I think that's a lost opportunity. But I think the reason for that is that women tend to control most of the household spending on a lot of these product categories.
And I think there's a way to go about it too. It's got to have, it doesn't have to be like the Marlboro Man, but it's got to have like a cool guy sort of vibe to it, I think, for the certain type of male that they might be trying to appeal to. So I don't know I'm not a marketing or advertising expert by any sense of the imagination,
but we have to bring up the Gillette ad.
Oh gosh. Yes. That was.
What did you think as a man?
Oh gosh. Could get pretty political here pretty fast, but I think there's something happening I think the ad was great, and I think that there's probably a certain population that really needs to be listened to. But I also think that guys are sort of losing their guy testosterone factor. I think there's a lot of things that are doing like, why do we feel like we have to go and do like this obstacle course racing, like running through the mud and climbing over stuff? It's because we're not challenged. That side of us isn't being challenged, like that sort of almost barbaric or, I don't know how to explain it, but we're in the air conditioning all day long in the summer, and we're in the heat all day long in the wintertime. We're not pushing our boundaries the way that we need to be pushed. And
so is an aggression buildup or a
maybe
frustration?
So. Yes, I think it is. And so there's.
And you think it's a little bit different for men than for women on this particular part? Or do you think maybe women also have their own frustration build up?
I think they do too. Yeah, I don't know. What did you think about it?
At first, I didn't think it was such a great ad. Just like from an ad point of view, actually, I didn't think it was like so life changing. I'm just talking about the actual ad, like the production.
Yeah.
I didn't love the production. It wasn't an ad that made me like, remember that ad of the Nike girl, she's running? I forget. Anyway, there have been ads where I've watched them and from a visual and a production point of view, they've arrested me. That wasn't how I felt. But then I felt like it wasn't really geared at me. I didn't really. I see why people thought that it was a bit gratuitous in the sense of, well, Gillette suddenly turning around. But then I put on my more cynical hat and I go, well, everyone's talking about them. I mean, no one has forgot. Like everyone is now thinking about Gillette. So it got the job done.
Yes.
But do I think that Gillette has the same track record as like a Patagonia on the environment, for example? No.
Yeah, that's true. And
people did comment a lot that compared to the Nike ad, which used I'm having a brain blank. You know, the footballer who won't kneel.
Oh yes, yeah, American.
What's his
footballer
name?
God.
I've just blanked on his name. I normally know it, but so that ad to me was much more powerful.
Right.
But Nike, for me, Nike's brand identity and the ad went much more together than Gillette's brand identity and the ad they did. But at the end of the day, if it's going to encourage certain men to kind of see, push themselves to be compassionate to the experience of the women around them, I'm all for it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's really what I'm looking for out of that.
Yeah, I'm sure it raised a few eyebrows and made people think. So
it definitely made people mad.
Yes, it did.
And that's always the kind of thing that gets the most attention. So it would be interesting to be a fly in the wall in the meeting room when they decided. Like, I'm actually more interested to know, what did they think was going to happen versus what happened?
Well,
and what were they pushing for? That actually interests me.
I think you're right, though. I mean, their main objective was almost sort of clickbaitish in the sense that, they got everybody talking about Gillette and I mean, how that wasn't like a early morning thing and then it fades out. That was like weeks and weeks that's been talked about.
Absolutely.
So
we're talking about it now.
Yes, we are. I want to talk about your predictions. So I didn't know that you were like a crystal ball predictor, but you actually pretty spot on for your predictions. So for 2019, actually, you had some predictions that came true. So let's start there. So 2018, you had, I think it was 10 or 11 different predictions, but a couple that I think you were really, really spot on, where you predicted that plant-based meat and seafood alternatives will flourish and that plastic-free living will become the norm. So, I mean, if you think about Beyond Burger and Impossible, they were around before last year, but they like exploded.
But 2018 was the year of plant protein alternatives.
Yes, yes.
So is the question, how did I know? Or?
Yes, it is.
Well, I mean, as the editor of Green Queen and as Green Queen, I get access to so much information. So there's a lot of incoming information. 1, 2, I'm a ridiculously obsessive reader. I mean, I maybe read 3 hours a day, probably at the expense of my sleep. And 3, data. So we have access to a ton of data on Green Queen. What are readers searching for? What articles are clicking, getting the most clicks? What are people searching on Google to find us? So with all of that together, that's my crystal ball input.
Oh, I see.
So I see where it's going. So I knew in October 2017 that 2018 was going to be the year of the plant-based went mainstream. And I also knew that zero waste was going to take off because of the data and because all the information that I was getting from all, I find out before anyone else what businesses are being launched, all of that. what products are coming into the market. I usually get an insider's view to those things. So I tend to also meet a lot of entrepreneurs that are just starting out. So I know where the mind, where the attention is. And so that's how that's why I started doing these predictions a few years ago. Just to say, hey, this is what's coming, and people love trend predictions.
Yeah, they're fun.
And part of it is also data. So it's not completely it's not kind of what Sonalie thinks. It's, okay, what's happening in the world and how can I cement this into discrete categories?
Yeah, you do it well though. It's a fun piece. So go check out her 2019 list. I want to share, if it's okay with you, I want to share a couple of what you were predicting for this year. Especially after listening to your podcast on the fashion one, I really think, the circular economy going mainstream is definitely one. And
I'm already right because the loot was announced.
Yeah, that's true. So that's a nice quick check of the box there.
Yeah. So we went from zero waste to circular economy, right?
So tell everybody what that means really quick, just to make sure people understand.
The year of zero waste is the year that people got sick of all. It's really more the year that single-use plastics became unacceptable, right?
Okay.
So I think 2018 was the year of raising awareness. Like, why are single-use plastic bad? What is plastic doing to our environment? There's this solution called living zero waste. What does it mean?
We got rid of Camden's Ziploc bags in your year of your prediction there. So
exactly. So that's what 2018. That's what's happening there. But 2019 is, let's take it a step further, right? Recycling is not working.
Right.
Now, how do we close the loop in this concept of the linear economy versus the circular economy? And that's where the shift is really going to happen this year, with this big announcement being the first one. Mm-hmm. It's a big trial from some huge companies in 2 major metropolitan areas in the world. And eventually, I think it will go to the whole world. It's a test, right? That they've just announced, but on quite a few products and many brands. But what it's going to show, I think, is that it works. Basically, we're going back to the milkman.
Yeah.
That's really what's happening, right?
And it used to be sort of a boutique thing. Like, I think Food Craft here does this, where if you get like a bottle of their homemade awesome almond milk, it's in a really nice glass jar, and they give you a little cooler, and when they come to deliver your next thing, you set out your other one.
But I mean, even Food Craft wasn't doing that 2 years ago.
Really? Wow.
That's last year that they launched that.
So you really were on that prediction.
So no, I mean, because there's also demand, and there's an understanding that they also have a role to play. Great. They also have a deal with Live Zero, which stocks their products that you can return all the jars there, and then they go back into production.
Oh, okay.
Genie Juicery switched from plastic bottles or plant-based plastic to glass bottles this year. So, and you can again bring all your glass bottles back, and they will put them back in production. They call it recycling, but really it's reusing, and that's circular economy. Mm-hmm. So I think the packaging-wise, circular economy is really going to take off. We're going to realize, like, let's go back to how we used to do things and stop wasting. And why do we need to make new packaging for everything we consume?
Gosh, yeah, that alone would be a huge chunk of our waste.
Well, if you look at what's in the polluting the oceans, it's all packaging. A lot of it is packaging. When it's not fishing nets, that's a whole other conversation.
Fishing nets is a big chunk.
Of course, most of the plastic pollution in the ocean is the fishing nets, which is why, another thing that I think is going to get bigger is the fight against eating seafood. Mm-hmm. Because I think for a long time, the seafood industry has gotten away with, okay, well, as long as it's wild caught, or it's ethically caught, or as long as it's sustainably sourced, or as long as it's like it's farmed, but it's like sustainably farmed. But I think, and I've felt this for a long time. So I've not eaten fish. The only fish I was still eating until recently were anchovies. Mm-hmm. But basically all other fish I really had stopped eating, because I also know way too much about the fishing industry, and it's quite scary once you start getting into it. But I think that for most people, they're told that fish is healthy.
I got to get those omegas.
The main message that has really succeeded over the last 10 years is salmon has got omega-3s and it's healthy. Mm-hmm. So everyone's eating salmon. Meanwhile, salmon is maybe one of the dirtiest fish you can eat. It's also one of the most unsustainable fish you can eat, even the farmed ones. So that I think is going to be a huge topic this year. And I think there's also going to be a lot of plant-based alternatives to fish that are going to come out.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, flax is a great source of omega-3s.
Oh, but I mean like the Beyond Burger equivalent.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because what Beyond and Impossible have done for me is they've made it sexy and trendy and fun to eat to replace your protein with a plant source. And I think that that's going to happen.
So you're saying that you think they're going to inject these lab meats with omegas just to replace it from that sense? Is that what you think?
No, I think there's going to be equivalents for tuna, for salmon.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
There's going to be products that are going to come out that are going to make it attractive to ditch seafood, but also the media headlines and the conversation is going to start getting more serious, because at the end of the day, if you are anti-plastic, then you shouldn't eat fish, because most of the plastic in the oceans is fishing nets.
Right.
So
it'd be like
there.
beyond tuna or beyond.
So some people are very anti-plastic, but maybe they haven't thought about their diet. But I think that connection is going to be made.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then sexy products are going to come along to make it easier to make those choices. And yeah, but I think this idea that fish is super healthy, this myth is going to be dispelled. I'm not saying that fish isn't healthy in a way, but a lot of the fish we eat is so unethically sourced. And I mean, you know, there's huge reports on the fact that like a lot of the foreign salmon that's everywhere, it's full of lice and bacteria. Anyway, that's a whole conversation, but that stuff is going to become more mainstream knowledge.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, when I talk to people, the average Joe or Jane, it's very much like fish is healthy. That's it.
Yeah,
That's the conversation.
Well, there's a lot of pescatarians, right? That, you know, are going totally
Which
vegan.
used to be considered the healthier omnivore diet, right?
Yep. All right, another prediction. The commodification of relaxation. What do you mean by that one?
So I think fitness and yoga have really taken off in the last 10 years, right? I mean, everyone knows that fitness is important. Most people try different workouts. You know, boutique fitness has really taken off. But what I think is coming is going back to your wellness balance model. People have never been so stressed. They've never been so stimulated. And part of this digitalization of our lives is that we're overstimulated.
Yes.
And so relaxation is more important than ever.
Yes.
And so that's why I do see you're going to start seeing a lot more relaxation gyms, meditation gyms, things like sound baths and type of Tibetan sound bath classes, gong therapy, all of these kind of ways to really de-stress and calm down and lower your blood pressure is going to become more and more important, and especially as we continue to get even more digitally connected.
I have to agree with that. I think there is a definite parallel between our continuing increasing use of digital media and the fact that we're not exactly getting slower with our jobs and with our families. It's always faster, more, get to the gym, get out, go take such and such to school. I mean, it's only
Plus
getting
you're
faster.
expected now to be constantly looking at your phone for work and answer your emails.
Yeah.
So we're over connected, we're over digitally stimulated.
So anything, to your point, anything that helps us get into that parasympathetic state where we're relaxing is there is going to be, I have to agree with this prediction. I think there's going to be a market for, in New York City, there's this place called Recover. And it's a little bit more fitness oriented, where it's cold thermogenesis and, you know, the boots that help increase blood flow and those types of things.
So that's for a performance goal. But that's going to lead to, because what improves performance is meditation and relaxation.
Yeah, absolutely. And to tie it in,
everything's connected.
Yeah, and to tie it in, a lot more people are looking at their heart rate variability.
Yes.
And that's a really good way to look at how parasympathetic you are on a daily basis. And if you're getting a low HRV score 3 days in a row, it's in the tank 3 days in a row. maybe I need to go do some more parasympathetic stuff like gratitude journaling, like going to, one of the things you talked about, do some personal meditation. So I think that anytime people are having trouble getting it done on their own, it is going to become a commodity. So I think that's a good prediction. I'm gonna do one more because you have so many good ones, but one more. Huge, absolutely huge right now in the wellness space is CBD. Huge. And I haven't tried it yet, but like a lot of folks back in the US have tried it. I think the access there is a little bit easier.
It's coming here. I can tell you
so?
already.
I know in your article you said it's legal.
Emails. It is legal. Again, going back, first we have to explain CBD is cannabidiol oil, right? It's not hallucinogenic. It is not like smoking a joint to get high. So most people are a bit confused about that. CBD sounds like it might be drugs, and it's not considered drugs. But it's actually linked to what we were just talking about, which is this need to kind of take care of your parasympathetic system, because what CBD oil does on a very granular cellular level is it completely relaxes you. And it relaxes your cells and your insides. It's not just mental. It's actually physically relaxes you. So I think there's, one, it's going to become a buzzword. People, most people haven't heard about it. They're going to know about it.
And a meme.
Definitely a meme. And then two, there's already a lot of applications for it, but you're going to start seeing it in beauty products and in foods a lot. I mean, you can already buy CBD beauty products here. Yeah,
like creams and stuff like that.
Yeah, which to calm your body, and so that's going to be huge. And then it's, you mentioned that people are checking up their heart rate variability. That's, to me, part of this the life hacking trend that also was big, and that was in my trends last year, which is this obsession with kind of keeping track of all your numbers and the IoT thing where you like have all these devices that kind of tell you like how you sleep and how you do this. One thing that's going to be big is going to be meditation hardware.
Oh, like VR?
No, like bands you put on your head that track what's going on in your brain while you meditate, right? There's going to be a lot of IoT in the relaxation space. Again, going back to the commodification of relaxation. And then the CBD is linked to that because CBD can help you kind of lower your numbers and keep you at a more calm, relaxed level. And so it's going to be people are in pursuit of that optimal relaxation level, and because it's considered part of health now.
Absolutely. I think it's exciting. So for Hong Kong, I know in your article, it's technically legal, but at least I think this was a month ago or so, they hadn't actually worked with any companies to bring it in. Like it had to be signed off as a distributor or something like that. So
right. I think that is true. But I know there are still some places you can actually get it.
Oh, interesting.
And I mean, literally 2 days ago, I just got an email from someone who wants to sell CBD products in Hong Kong. It's the 4th this year already.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's coming. It's coming. Yeah, it's exciting.
The good thing about Hong Kong is you can go from 0 to everywhere in 2 months.
When you've got the biggest port in the world, right? It's not that hard.
But it's also, Hong Kong is very quick to adapt a trend. When yoga took off, it took off. The minute someone smells that there's a business opportunity, you'll see CBD will be everywhere.
It is a good place to be an entrepreneur. I mean, when my company Boost is a Hong Kong limited company, and they do a nice job of, for some things like getting a bank account in Hong Kong, that can take months.
That's a certain bank's fault.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. But starting a business, it is business friendly. It's a good place.
Absolutely.
All right. I know I need to let you go. I've had you for a long time. I want to talk real quickly about Eco Warehouse. Tell us a little bit about this other company of yours.
Very quickly. So it's a global trade platform where buyers or entrepreneurs or food manufacturers can look for products, specifically certified organic products. So the whole point of the platform is to to make access to organic products easier and cheaper. Because the more people choose organic, the more the prices will come down, and the more we can have safe, agriculturally grown products for everyone. And so it's really for food manufacturers, because obviously you might know that organic has really taken off. It's a huge industry. It's an industry worth $130 billion worldwide.
Wow.
It's going to be more than triple that within just a few years. We're looking at 400 billion by 2023 or 2024. I mean, organic is going gaga. It's even bigger in the numbers than the plant-based movement, but maybe it's lost a little bit of popularity because plant-based has become so big. But at the end of the day, organic, what is organic? It's a way to farm that helps keep the soil healthy. And we need the soil to be healthy so that our waterways can be healthy, our air can be healthy, and so that the food that we grow can nourish us. And there's a huge issue now where a lot of the food we eat is nutritionally very weak.
Yes.
And that's because of the soil. So, if you believe in organic farming, you really believe in that mission to replenish our soil, to rehabilitate our soil through organic farming. And so we created a platform where all the suppliers are vetted. So their companies are vetted and their organic certification is vetted.
That's awesome.
So that you can feel safe when you're sourcing for products. And so we have users from over 150 countries, and we have all kinds of products, everything from dried goods to fresh produce to processed foods like supplements or teas or nuts and seeds and superfood powders, protein powders. We have huge companies sourcing from us because they want to have safe organic ingredients for their products.
That's really great. And, just honing in on the supplement piece of it, it's not regulated by the FDA in the US. So
it's not, but in order to have an organic supplement, you need a certificate.
Okay.
So that part is regulated, the organic part.
So if I'm looking at a supplement that says it has an organic ingredient with the organic stamp on there, then it has to have
there's a difference between made with organic ingredients, which does not have to be regulated, but you cannot put a seal on your product, and then certified organic. That means that the processed product has gotten certified.
Okay. And
we only work with nonprofit and government labels. So USD organic, EU organic, Australia organic. We don't work with private organic labels.
Okay.
To avoid conflict of interest.
Is there a benefit as a consumer to go and look at, do you have a list of the brands that are on there to see?
What we do have is a very useful guide to organic labels. Okay. But it is very much geared to trade.
So it's B2B.
It is B2B.
Okay.
So it's a site for professionals and trade people and, basically food manufacturers. So we have a lot of, we see a lot of new brands when they're about to start because they're sourcing from products.
Well, it just, even as a consumer, even though I'm not, trying to source there, it just feels good to know that there's somebody out there helping the, companies trying to source products get the best stuff. So that's good as a consumer.
And trusted stuff.
Yeah.
I think especially in Asia, that is an issue.
Yeah, that's true.
Following the paperwork trail. We've shut down a couple of companies.
Wow.
Yeah, people who tried to sign up and their certificate was fraudulent.
Don't mess with the Green Queen, man. Get shut down.
Exactly.
I ask everybody this question, and nobody better than the Green Queen to ask how you find your wellness balance. It can be anything in the 7 dimensions we've talked about. What are some of the things that you do to stay balanced?
Going to see the trees,
yes,
which I'm missing lately, and then eating food that's cooked at home.
I like that.
Food from scratch. I'm a cook. That's what I enjoy doing. I find it super relaxing. I'm always trying to think of new ways, especially to plant-based something. And I just can't think of anything more joyful than to eat really delicious food that was cooked at home with love.
That's awesome. What's your
Although
best?
I do love a good Beyond Burger sometimes.
Beyond Burger is nice, yeah.
And I've just started cooking with Omni Pork, the new.
I haven't tried it yet.
It's so good. I
haven't tried it. I was at the airport. Dave's got Omni Pork. David Yang of Green Common has Omni Pork in, it's like a little healthy restaurant that's in the airport. I can't think of the name of it right now. But anyway, they're making like a meatball sub, and they're using OmniPork in that, but they were sold out of it when I went to go try to get one. So I was like, oh shoot. But it's good.
The distribution for OmniPork has been amazing. I mean, in just a few short months, they're everywhere. And what's great is they're in a lot of local places, you know, not just kind of Western style cafes. It's mostly because what's so genius about OmniPork is that it is a food that replaces a staple of an Asian diet, which is minced pork.
Right. Yeah, it's huge.
Asians use minced pork in their cuisine a lot more than Westerners would. You know,
that was what was really eye-opening to me moving here a couple of years ago. I knew I could figure out my plant-based routine because I would cook a lot and figure out stuff when we eat out. But just the amount of pork that's in just standard cuisine here it's
right. Pork is the meat of choice. So that's why he tackled that with OmniPork, and that was really smart. But it's a great product. I just was cooking with it 2 days ago and yesterday.
What's your best go-to dish? What do you like to cook at home that's that you plant-based-ized?
Oh, that's hard. I cook different things every day.
That's good.
I'm really bad about having recipes.
Okay.
Like I'll literally do something completely different.
That sounds like a real chef then.
I don't know. I just really enjoy it. But what I make most is sort of what I call ottolenghi food. So ottolenghi is really, he's like a really famous chef from London. He's Israeli, and actually his original restaurant partner is Palestinian, and so they started with this deli in Notting Hill in London, and it's tons of baked goods, but also tons of beautiful salads and roasted vegetables. And he was really somebody that put vegetables in the forefront. He's not vegan or even plant-based, but he really elevated the humble vegetables to greatness.
Nice.
And he convinced, a whole generation of eaters and cooks to celebrate vegetables. And so a lot of what I cook is like it'll be like a bunch of roasted cauliflower with herbs and a wild rice pilaf and lots of dips like a hummus or a homemade baba ganoush. So I eat a lot of, I like dinners where there's a few things to choose.
Yeah.
So I tend to make, roasted peppers. So I'll tend to always have 3 or 4 different things going on. And then my husband makes homemade chapatis at home. So that's nice. The Indian bread that's literally just flour and water, and you don't even need to cook it in oil. You just cook it on heat. And so that with like a bunch of salads and dips, that's our staple. That's awesome.
You know what I like to do? I have it's Paul's world famous cashew dip.
Ooh.
So it's one of the things I missed when I went vegan was like, it's disgusting, but you would get the Velveeta and mix it with the Rotel,
Yeah. I mean, I've tried it only once, but it was good. Yeah. But I know most of my American friends grew up with something like that.
So
like the 7-layer dips and the nacho dips.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're watching the ball game and you're having some of that.
Yeah. Dips are I'm all about dips and sauces.
So
how do you do it?
Well, it's a very simple recipe. But what I like to do is make it and bring it to a party, and they may or may not know that I'm plant-based, but I'll bring it and I'll just like, what's this? I'll just try it and see. It's got a little spice to it, but if you like spice, I think you'll like it. Oh, that's really good. What is that? And then I'll tell them that's cashew cheese. And they're like, what's cashew cheese? And it's like, well, it doesn't have any dairy in it. It's just cashews. And I actually I missed that Rotel, which is just peppers and tomatoes. And so I put Rotel in it. And some spices, and of course the key ingredient to make it cheesy is nutritional yeast. Yes, and it's fantastic. And so it's kind of a fun little way to get people maybe somewhat interested about plant-based. Yeah.
I love it. You've just reminded me I need to get back into making cashew dips.
Yeah, there's many years ago different types, aren't there?
I used to do that actually, and I used to bring them to parties too, but now I don't go to that many parties because I have a newborn.
Yes, that makes it hard.
Definitely make some for me.
Okay.
Cashews they're the best.
They are, because a
lot of the best plant-based cheeses are cashew-based.
And I like cashew milk too. It's just a little bit more creamy too, so I like to have that.
Great little spot in Kennedy Town called Infinity Sea where they make their own homemade cashew milk.
Oh, I have to check it out.
So, like if you get a nice golden latte or something.
See, I'll just ask you questions if I ever need an idea of something. Anytime. You're like the Hong Kong pro.
Absolutely.
Well, Sonalie, thank you so much for joining the Boost Health podcast today. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.
I know you got to get back to your little baby.
It's been such an honor. I've had such a good time on this conversation. We've covered a lot of different topics.
We have. We had our list of things that we wanted to talk about. I think we did a good job covering everything. We'll have to have you back on again sometime.
I would love
There's
to.
a lot of stuff I still want to chat with you about. So
I would love to.
We got to talk more about the rest of the 2019 predictions as the year goes on.
Well, we could revisit in a few months, see what's going on.
That sounds good. Well, thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.